Have you ever heard of a human non-person? Yeah, I hadn't either, but that's what the Supreme Court came up with in 1973 in order to give the right to abortion. They created a third category of person called the human non-person, that indeed the baby was human, but it wasn't yet a person. Personhood wasn't yet attributed to the child, therefore it did not come under the protection of the 14th Amendment. That is some kind of crazy verbal gymnastics to justify an evil act. But let's look today in Virginia what's going on. In the state of Virginia, they've already passed this amendment. It's passed the first hurdle to have this thing pass, and it's passing on pure party lines. In fact, the candidates that are running in Virginia for this November election are flat out running on the abortion issue, that they want to protect the right to an abortion. What is a right to an abortion? Well, they guise it within this language called reproductive freedom and health rights and all this kind of rhetoric that doesn't make any sense. But they do this intentionally to make the conversation confusing. They're still running with this idea that this baby is a human non-person. It's not yet a person. Really what they're saying, when the baby's not wanted, it's not a person. But what do we do in relation to this? Why do we as Christians sometimes back away from this conversation, or even more so, why do pastors not talk about it from the pulpit? This isn't just strictly about a political issue, and we don't want to get political because it's not political. It is indeed a biblical issue. God has something to say about life. In fact, the Christian worldview, the Judaic Christian worldview, is the only worldview that begins with the premise of Imago Dei, that all people are made in the image of God. And therefore, it's demanded that they have value and dignity and inherent worth. No other worldview begins with that premise, and yet the very ones that say that they adhere to that ideology, that adhere to that premise, to that belief structure, won't even talk about it from the pulpit or share it with their family members. Here's what is so disappointing. We see that within even the most conservative churches, the stats show about 1 in 5, about 20% of those congregations have had direct involvement with an abortion, male and female. And if not direct involvement, they have family or somebody very close to them that has done this. How sad it is that we will not talk about this issue from a biblical worldview and share that, yes, indeed, it is a sin and God does say something about this, but more importantly, that there is healing and forgiveness in Jesus Christ for those that may have carried this out. How many men and women are carrying shame and guilt because we're afraid to talk about this issue because it's too political? Stop letting the world tell us how to think about issues and think about ideas and think about concepts when life is a fundamental issue that God says, I breathe life into the nostrils of man in the very beginning, and I knit them together in their mother's womb. I am the author of life. Let us share this message that there's also healing and forgiveness if that life has been snuffed out in some way.